Now, you've definitely heard about Antonia's puke-inducing diarrhea on a plate and the red team's infamous duck breast from season 3. However, between the bad, the burnt, and the butchered, there are times when Chef Ramsay absolutely hated the food on Hell's Kitchen. As you may know, the F-bomb is one of the most varying and interchangeable words that exist in the English language, and it's one of the few words that can express any emotion. And well, Chef Ramsay uses it to express disgust.
They are cooked to 1 out of 5.
Plus, you have to agree, nobody does it like him. In the 15th season, Mark was the third person in the Signature Dish Challenge to have his dish judged. He went up against Danny with this black mussels with chorizo and tomato broth dish. Unfortunately, Chef Ramsay wasn't too thrilled because the mussels were a bit overcooked. And in the end, he ended up with just 1 point on the scoreboard. But hey, this dish was destined to be doomed. With just one glance at the chart appearance, it was clear that this dish was destined to be an instant flop. Not just his signature dish, Chef Ramsay wasn't a fan of Mark's performance during the dinner service either. Mark teamed up with Hassan at the appetizer station, but things didn't go so smoothly. His pizza ended up burnt on the bottom.
In England we have a saying, when it's brown it's cooked, when it's black it's
That's more like charred. I think the smoke alarms in HK need an upgrade. Anyway, to make matters worse, his risotto turned out to be both raw and bland, to the point that Chef Ramsay had to let his actions speak for themselves.
Taste that, it's bland, the rice is still undercooked, disgusting!
So he and Eddie got front row seats to the disaster they had wrought after they got banished to the chef's table to eat their mistakes. Well, there's absolutely no way Chef Ramsay would let the food go to waste. But as it turns out, Eddie only finished what Mark had started and somehow got caught in the crossfire. Ugh, tough gig, buddy. What's more, Chef Ramsay made it clear how colossally disappointed he was.
Mark was a disaster from the start. Best thing I saw from him was his back as he walked out the door.
Now, do you remember the captain who hit the iceberg on the fucking Titanic?
You do seriously surprise me. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, he really thought Chef Ramsay was gonna compliment him and immediately started his Oscar acceptance speech, only to be humbled right after.
You surprise me to how shit you are, huh?
Craig is all of us, y'all. The famous chef actually pulled this move another time way back in season 2 while judging Virginia's coconut and pomegranate celery root salad. Let me refresh your memory a little bit.
It's fine.
Did you smile too soon? Aw man, I wish you waited till you saw this.
As far as rabbit food goes, because it's all raw and crunchy.
Not so happy now, huh? She deserved it. There was nothing cooked on her plate, and all she did during those 30 minutes was toast nuts.
We've toasted nuts for 29 minutes and then grated a coconut.
Well, that must have driven Ramsay nuts. I can tell you that much for sure. Anyway, despite the critique, Virginia was in denial and went absolutely Looney Tunes defending her dish.
A rabbit might like it. I don't think rabbits like coconut milk.
Virginia, honestly, just stop. Anyway, moving on, let's now cut to the steak night dinner service of season 21. Vlad was strutting his stuff, feeling all confident as he wielded a cake tester to assess the warmth of his meat. However, when the entrees made their way up, Chef Ramsay wasn't exactly thrilled. He was so repulsed that he summoned the blue team for an impromptu powwow in the pantry to give them the cold, hard truth.
Touch that. What has happened to us? This is a joke. It's a salmon, it's a fillet!
He gave an ultimatum to the entire team that sounded something like, get your act together or get out. Okay, but let's hear Chef Ramsay's version now.
Get a grip or get out.
Yes, chef.
Gotta say, he puts it a lot more, succinctly than I ever could. And boy does he know how to make a dramatic exit, one that makes a statement.
This is embarrassing.
Meanwhile, Vlad felt incredibly embarrassed about the entire ordeal, and understandably so. After all, his decisions had led him to this moment.
I feel like Jack on the Titanic. I'm deep in freezing waters and I'm
In the end, while Jack still could have been saved by Rose, Vlad didn't survive that elimination. You see, meat thermometers are a huge no-no in Chef Ramsay's kitchen. He wants his winner to master the art of gauging the meat's temperature the old-fashioned way. And well, that's understandable. However, what puzzles me is him poking fun at Vlad for supposedly confusing a thermometer with a cake tester.
It tests cakes, not steaks. Vlad, that was bad.
Surprisingly, using a cake tester to check the meat temperatures isn't all that weird. Yeah, I know. Many professional chefs do it. Don't believe me? Well, just Google it. The thing is, the thinness of the cake tester comes in handy here, preventing any harm to the delicate meat and avoiding those dreaded gaping puncture wounds. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Ramsay overreacted? Let me know in the comments section down below. However, let's now head to season 4, where Corey found herself as the third up in the signature dish challenge. What was her offering? A salad. Yeah, that's it. Chef Ramsay's critique cut deep, and it soon started to get personal.
That tells me a lot about you. Simple, plain, blonde, and boring.
That must have been the most tragic description I've ever seen. He shut her down in just 4 words. That's gotta be a record or something. This was honestly up there with that infamous exotic tartare, where one true culinarian thought that grating white chocolate over seafood was somehow a great idea. Wondering who did that? I'm talking about Matt Sigel, who made it into my list of chefs who didn't deserve black jackets. Watch the video I linked right here and let me know if you agree. But back to Corey. During the first dinner service, she was tasked with manning the meat station. However, when the time finally arrived for the entrees to make their grand entrance, more than an agonizing hour into the service, her chicken turned out to be a sad and sorry mess.
It's rubber! Plastic, dry shit!
The level of disappointment and fury in Chef Ramsay's voice was undeniable. He didn't just critique in silence, he decided to make Corey's chicken a public spectacle.
Pass it around!
The poor chicken was overcooked to the point that it became elastic. And this next clip proves it.
Throw me the ball, let's fucking play around us.
Later, after service with a touch of incredulity and humor, Chef Ramsay recounted the incident to Corey.
That chicken bounced off the wall and nearly left the restaurant.
But that was just the first episode. Corey definitely became more consistent as the show progressed. Oh, and by the way, does anyone else feel like the scenes with LaRosse feel, fabricated?
I think Lou Ross is probably attracted to me, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win Hell's Kitchen.
Just that easily makes it into the top 10 cringiest HK moments, don't you agree? Maybe that'll be my next video. Anyway, nothing was brewing because, like she mentioned, she was taller and had a boyfriend. So, remind me again, what was the point? Anyway, as of now, she seems to be balancing her work and family life like a pro. Good for her, right? But back to Chef Ramsay's quote-unquote favorite dishes. Let's talk about that time back in season 13 when Jennifer pretty much owned all the challenges. Remember that pan-seared Chilean sea bass she whipped up? It got major props for being the most stunning dish in the competition up to that point. And even when she wasn't feeling all that confident, she still managed to hit the bullseye most of the time. Take the Indian cuisine challenge for instance, she totally rocked it despite her self-doubts. Which is why we were all caught a bit off guard when she presented this in the amuse-bouche challenge.
Oh my gosh.
Chef Ramsay's critique was far from glowing, emphasizing the dish's off-putting presentation and the rather eccentric idea of sucking on prawn heads. Tanya Steele was still gracious in giving her a 3, but Chef Ramsay? He couldn't stop taking digs.
Every customer's gonna sit down and start sucking the head.
Eventually, Jennifer's confidence deflated as she only managed to scrape together 5 points. But this next dish had me screaming bloody hell. So, during the first half of the Pork Creation Challenge in Season 7, Milka made a valiant dish to snag her swine. Her eyes were locked on the bacon-collared pig, and she went hog wild trying to catch it, but this little oinker proved to be quite the elusive beast. He gave Milka a run for her money.
Oh my God! Damn bacon!
After a thrilling chase, she finally cornered the one sporting a blood sausage collar. Now, when Fran grabbed some prunes, Milka couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Prunes didn't exactly feel appetizing to her. Imagine her shock when she had to work with them. While the very words blood and sausage may conjure up some pretty unsavory images, imagine how bad they would taste when combined with prunes.
We're gonna do like a nice sausage and we're gonna garnish it with prunes. It's the best thing.
I mean, what was Scott thinking pairing Milka and Fran together? As they started cooking, neither of them felt all that confident because they never worked with blood sausages before.
Is it supposed to be mushy?
Yeah.
Sorry Scott, but aren't they supposed to be firm and juicy? Things quickly took a disappointing turn when they pulled their dish out of the oven and it was a bust. Milka felt a sinking feeling in her stomach. Scott chimed in, telling her that they should have pricked those sausages before cooking them.
You're supposed to prick it before you cook it.
Damn it!
And later on, when it came time to plate their dishes, Milka and Fran were the only ones who didn't look all that confident. When Chef Ramsay tasted their dish, well, let's just say he was hardly swined and dined. Milka, clearly not thrilled from the start, confessed that she wasn't happy with the dish. But Chef Ramsay demanded to know something.
Who in the chose prune with blood sausage.
You see, I don't blame him. As a Scottish lad, his culture was butchered right in front of him. Friends stared daggers at Scott, who had the idea but conveniently kept quiet and refused to take responsibility. It definitely created some bad blood between him and the team.
It was his decision to put those items onto the plate, and Scott's trying not to own up to it.
After a tense moment, Noga boldly declared that she'd rather serve an empty plate. But Chef Ramsay was in no mood to hold back.
It went completely wrong.
Understatement of the year.
The dish was a complete disaster. I mean, no, duh. Who are we kidding here? It looked disgusting from the very beginning. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyway, in season 15, during the Signature Dish Challenge, Vanessa stood before Chef Ramsay as the 5th contestant from the red team. She presented her eggplant involtini, which drastically fell short of Chef Ramsay's standards. And yeah, he spared no expense when he tore into it.
1 out of 5, not good.
In the end, the red team's hopes crumbled as they lost the challenge by a razor-thin margin. But nothing changed for Vanessa. She continued to struggle on the appetizers during the dinner service too.
Definitely a lot of pressure on my shoulders being in the app station because it's where people die.
As the orders piled up, Chef Ramsay's eagle eye spotted a burnt pizza, but to everyone's surprise, Vanessa decided to slice it away. The famous chef, concerned, asked if she was alright, to which she admitted her nerves were getting the best of her. Ramsay, never one to shy away from a quip, had something to say about it.
Hey, not as nervous as I am.
Despite managing to get a refired dish accepted, Vanessa still presented a roasted squash dish that left Ramsay disappointed. It looked appalling, and Chef Ramsay wasn't wrong in saying,
It's like you all over the plate. It's even cold in the middle.
But at least she knew when to ask for help, which prompted Chef Ramsay to rally the entire red team to come to her aid at the appetizer station. And now, let's move on to Paulie Giganti. Paulie, he'll be remembered for a lot of things, like for this dish, but definitely not in a good way. During the ingredient crossword challenge, he confidently picked the word yam. You see, the contestants could use any ingredients from the team's crossword board to prepare the dish. He was all about challenging himself, wanting to show off his technique.
Trying to do a few things that are a little more technical, stuff the okra.
What's more, he was the first one from the blue team to get his dish judged, and he proudly presented his grilled ribeye with crab stuffed okra. But when Chef Ramsay looked at the plate, it was clear that he didn't like what he was seeing.
Okra, badly prepared, raw.
He went over every part of the dish with a fine-tooth comb, and let me tell you, whether we're talking creativity, presentation, or taste, Paulie's creation just didn't cut it in any way. And the real blow came when Chef Ramsay tasted the ribeye.
And that's the worst bastardization of a ribeye I've seen this year.
Paulie, not used to being at the bottom, was pretty upset. But Chef Ramsay wasn't in the mood to coddle anyone.
You can get defensive all you want.
I'm not defensive at all,
Give
Chef.
me raw okra and expect me to kiss your ass.
Whoa, he basically told Paulie that he wouldn't get any special treatment just because his okra was overcooked. Paulie tried to salvage something from the wreckage and asked if there was anything good about the dish. And you guys have to agree on this, Chef Ramsay's reply was brutally honest.
Plate, you served it on. off.
He shot himself in the foot with that question, didn't he? Now, one of my favorite contestants in the history of Season 6 is the one-armed bandit from New Jersey, Dave Levy. He single-handedly dominated this season. Yeah, that's to say he was slaying even with an arm behind his back. But his kryptonite was dessert.
What is that?
In the 700 calories 3-course meal challenge, Dave joined forces with Andy to tackle the dessert course. Their work hit a snag when Dave's idea to add sugar to their filling got the cold shoulder. They finally came up with an egg white crepe stuffed with fruity compote and crowned with blackberry yogurt cream. But oh, Chef Ramsay didn't just raise an eyebrow, he let out a chuckle, and it wasn't funny.
Oh, come on.
God, that's a tough one. Drop your thoughts down below. Anyway, Chef Ramsay absolutely didn't sugarcoat anything. In short, the dish was disgusting.
That's the kind of crap you serve when you've just come out of a heart bypass or an ulcer operation.
In the end, it was a tough loss for the blue team, falling short with a score of 1-3. But my boy took that laugh personally and didn't let it keep him down. Instead, he used it as fuel to keep pushing forward and fighting for the win. Oh, and spoiler alert for those of you who didn't watch the season yet, he did. Now brace yourselves because things went awry later on. After triumphing as the winner, Dave was set to claim the coveted $250,000 prize and secure the head chef role at the renowned Araxi restaurant and bar nestled in the town of Whistler, British Columbia. With the 2010 Winter Olympics looming at large, the ski town braced for a surge in visitors, and Ramsay needed to be primed for action. The promised head chef position turned out to be a line cook gig. Faced with this unexpected twist, he decided to bid adieu to Ramsay shortly after the Olympics concluded. Dave returned directly home to Jersey following a stint in Whistler. Although he keeps a low profile on social media, there are reports that he's now a baker at Mara's Cafe and Bakery in Denville. Beyond his culinary endeavors, Dave has also shared his adventures on the Appalachian Trail from 2005. In 2014, he found himself on the wrong side of the law in a drug bust, but his innocence was swiftly proven, leading to his release. Was this the worst Hell's Kitchen prize for the winner? Maybe, but honestly, I would say Season 7 was the worst. Chef Ramsay found himself in trouble this time, not for anything that he said, but instead for not being able to keep his word. He had to backtrack on the prize promised to the winner of the 7th season, Holly Ugold, a coveted 6-month gig working alongside the head chef at the illustrious Savoy Grill in London's prestigious Savoy Hotel. However, she hit a bit of a bureaucratic roadblock on her way to the UK. Her visa application submitted by the show's producers got the red light from the Home Office, the British Immigration Authority. Sadly, no clear explanation was provided for the visa's rejection. Holly's agent, Zlata Fairman, has suggested that there might be more to this story than meets the eye. Holly really didn't hold back, reportedly questioning whether the show's producers even made a sincere effort to secure her visa. Well, apparently, she felt betrayed. What do you think happened? Anyway, back to the food. You know the reason why you're all here. In Season 10, Dawn served a dish that was honestly spicier than Chef Ramsay's temper. During the Signature Dish Challenge, Dawn was the first person from the blue team to have his Southwestern Saltimbocca judged by Chef Ramsay and went up against Robin.
My signature dish is going to knock his socks off. He's going to declare me the winner right then and there.
Never before have I seen someone been so wrong. He was soon forced to eat his words because as soon as Chef Ramsay took a bite, it seemed like he had tasted a mouthful of lava. He let out an involuntary cough and without hesitation asked Robin to taste it.
How much cumin do you put in there?
About a half a teaspoon.
And that's not too much for you?
You might want to rethink your answer, Dawn. He suggested to Robin that she might want to consider spitting out her bite, and she readily obliged. Man, that was humiliating. Now, in the very same season, we had a contestant who refused to let Chef Ramsay taste his signature dish.
I wouldn't even try, it got burned.
Telling me not to try it?
Yeah, we're talking about Guy. Why? Because the chocolate miso sauce was burnt and the execution of his dish was poor, and he knew it.
Don't put it in your mouth. It's not good. It's not for eating.
He should have listened to his warning because Chef Ramsay was absolutely dismayed.
It tastes like a fucking fish sundae.
But you have to agree, he has quite the colorful imagination because what the hell is a fish sundae? You know what? Don't tell me. I've had my fill of unappetizing shit for today just by looking at these dishes. Needless to say, he scored no points. Now, you might already know about Chef Ramsay's aversion to extra spicy dishes. Remember Jessica's Cajun crab?
It's burning my mouth off. The spices are far too bloody hot.
And Noka's chicken wings with a bottle full of Tabasco?
That's gonna blow your fucking asshole out, that. Burn my mouth.
Now, this next chef has a different opinion than Chef Ramsay, and she was defensive about the spice level in her dish.
I don't think it was too spicy. I don't think he could take the spice. I think he's a wimp when it comes to that.
You see, Maribel couldn't take the criticism for her Argentine plantain soup.
I'm so sorry.
Chef Ramsay promptly spat it out because it was too garlicky and hot. Not just that, there was another problem.
And it looks like baby vomit.
What a gag-worthy performance. But you know what? I think Season 1 brought out the fiercest, no-holds-barred Gordon Ramsay we've ever seen. Between Michael's palate, which was compared to this...
You've got a palate like a cow's backside. That is disgusting.
And Andrew's, which was likened to this...
is absolute dog shit.
Chef Ramsay wasn't pulling any punches. He was totally unfiltered and didn't care about how it would affect the contestants' self-esteem. Which is why, when Andrew retorted to his criticism by saying that his penne needed more salt, Chef Ramsay went in guns blazing.
And how long have you been cooking?
About 10 years.
What a waste of 10 years.
If someone claimed that a decade's worth of my blood, sweat, tears, emotional investment, financial sacrifices, and rigorous training amounted to nothing, I'd probably crumble to dust. And this feedback must have made Jimmy question everything that led up to this point.
It looks like a dehydrated camel's turd.
Dry humor at its finest. If you ask me, I think Jimmy's dish got the most hate. He had pan-seared chicken breast stuffed with portobello mushrooms and goat cheese, accompanied by a side of pumpkin mash and carrot tops. Starting off, the chicken was overcooked on the outside and raw on the inside, and those carrot tops? Well, they weren't exactly winning any awards either. Jimmy had a taste of that bitterness, and Chef Ramsay went as far as to refuse to taste them, dramatically tossing them aside to Jimmy's dismay.
Hold out your hands. There you go.
When Chef Ramsay spits out food, it leaves no room for doubt about how he's feeling.
It's dry.
So these were some of the times when Chef Ramsay absolutely hated the food on Hell's Kitchen. If you can think of any more, make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. And before you leave, make sure to smack that like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications to be notified when my videos come out. Also, don't forget to check out my latest video right here, since it's even crazier. Have a great one, guys!